Hello, Nick Hudson here. I want to talk to you about Let It Be, which I saw last night at the beautiful Prince of Wales Theatre. I'll start off by saying that I've never actually been to the Prince of Wales Theatre. I've been to a couple of events inside the Delphont Room, which is their very, very lavish bar for the stalls area. I saw Helena Blackman release her album there, and I went to the Critics Circle Awards there. So this theatre has always been a bit of a tease for me, especially as the long-awaited Book of Mormon is soon to open there. But filling in between that time is Let It Be, a concert of Beatles songs, really. That's the only way I can describe it. You can't really go wrong with that. Well, you could very, very easily go wrong with that if you had some very bad musicians and imitators and performers performing in this show, which luckily we did not. We were treated with some excellent performances all round. I took my father, who in all honesty is a bigger Beatles fan than I am, and he was amazed. He thought he was watching John Lennon at certain points. He thought he was watching Paul McCartney and George Harrison and Ringo Starr. We're treated to all the classic Beatles songs in chronological order, so it doesn't start off, all hippie-ish and then get more rock and roll. It starts off with the very early Beatles songs and gets towards the hippie peace element of the Beatles music, the kind of late 60s, wasn't it, I think? A couple of issues I had with this show. I'll start with the one that I left thinking was the Beatles songs are so iconic, and if you're going to have a big concert, you want to end with a big rousing finale, get the audience up on their feet. Now, this is what the play Backbeat did very well, or musical, whatever you want to call it. They ended with a huge, loud rock concert of the Beatles' early rock and roll stuff. Now, in this show, it starts with the early rock and roll stuff, so come the end of it, I wouldn't really call Hey Jude to be a very good, rousing rock and roll curtain call finale thing. It just didn't seem to work. They added elements of comedy in it, which when you see it, you'll appreciate it, and it was very funny, but it's not like We Will Rock You, for example, when you end on Bohemian Rhapsody. They left some odd song choices out, some kind of fun upbeat stuff. Two ones which I missed were Oobla Dee Oobla Da and Lady Madonna. They weren't in there, but as my dad said when we left, they could have done an entire different catalogue of songs, and it would have been an absolutely brilliant evening as well. The Beatles have done so many songs, you cannot comprehend the difficulties the creative team had when it came to choosing these songs. It's a transfer from Broadway. I think it played there 2 years ago, and we're treated to a very, very enjoyable evening. The lighting is incredible, albeit quite unrealistic as to what you probably would have got at a Beatles concert in the 60s, but it's bang up to date, and we have some TV screens to the left and the right, large enough for everyone to see. A very clever camera thing going on. Like Jersey Boys, they have live footage of the show being done on the screens, but I couldn't see any cameras anywhere. It was quite miraculous. They must have been little tiny cameras pinpointed around the theatre, zoomed in. Miraculous, very clever, and they were filming the audience at certain points. Another thing that I found slightly odd was in the early Beatles stuff, there is, in songs like Hard Day's Night and She Loves You, there is a harmonica. But there's no one playing the harmonica, so you wonder, am I really getting a live Beatles experience here, or is there some click track going on? Later on in the performance, a guy does appear and does some wonderful piano playing and orchestral stuff on his keyboard, obviously, triggering some backing tracks or something like that for songs like Yellow Submarine, and Interestingly, Yellow Submarine wasn't in it. But the song I meant to say was When I'm 64. When I'm 64 is interesting. I think I was saying to my dad, it's one of my favourite Beatles songs because it is so camp. And my dad said yes, and it's very funny as well. And you have to remember, they were only 20 or 22 or something when they wrote that. And interestingly enough, we have to thank, and I use the term loosely here, the Beatles, probably for the modern jukebox musical. Because they took their songs and they plonked them in stories. And this is what this show has not done. They've just taken their songs, of course, and not bothered to do a story around them at all. What I would have liked to have heard between songs was as opposed to quotes which we get from the various actors portraying the Beatles over the speakers whilst they were, changing around in the background. I would have liked to have seen more filmed stuff of the actors playing the Beatles talking about what happened at various elements in their career, because I don't know a huge amount about the Beatles. As I said, I saw Backbeat, and that told me a lot about the Beatles, which I certainly didn't know. The Brian Epstein story and all that kind of stuff, and their adventures in Hamburg. It's a wonderful play that we had last year. I would have liked to see more of that, but what we did get in one of the breaks between the songs was a very, very entertaining parody, I think, of 1960s commercials. They're very entertaining, a bit like Jerry Springer the Opera, but not sung. So that's the wonderful Let It Be playing at the Prince of Wales Theatre. Check it out before Book of Mormon takes over that theatre forever, probably. Maybe make a day trip out of it, I don't know. You can find more information about it at www.letitbelondon.com. Of course, that is their respective Twitter handle as well, twitter.com/letitbelondon. We're on Twitter at twitter.com/musicaltalk. Please do go and follow us there, it's very entertaining. We'll be returning on Tuesday with more of the Edinburgh Fringe 2012, and you'll be hearing from David Kingsmill then. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'll see you then. Bye.